Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right and naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about anything, from the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys. Tito's is known for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits to serve its communities and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's. Distilled and bottled by Fifth Generation Inc., Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume. Savor responsibly.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare.
Welcome to One Good Scare. Actually, kind of One Good Scare, because as you know, we do One Good Scare talking about horror movies. But today, and for actually, I have a few other episodes lined up in the future, we are doing something slightly different. Still talking horror, but not talking a horror movie. Today, we are talking a horror novel with a horror author. So, we're going to call this episode One Scary Read, because that's really what it is. I'm your host, Will. Welcome to One Scary Read, a subset of One Good Scare. Guys, I have a terrific guest in the studio with me today. Her name is Elle Keating. She is releasing a debut novel, Don't Wake Up, in just a little over a week from the time of recording. We're about 8 days out from her debut novel dropping, and I'm excited. I got a chance to read an excerpt, and yeah, I have some really, really what I think are good thoughts. So, Elle, thank you for being with us. Introduce yourself to our listeners.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm Elle G. Keating. I am a horror novelist, I guess. It's my debut. It's something I've wanted to do since I was, oh gosh, a teenager, I guess. Been writing since elementary school, really, and took a break in my 20s and life got in the way. And I decided to change things up and do what I love, follow a passion that I've dreamed of for years. So here I am.
That's awesome. Definitely want to talk all things horror writing, because I have so many questions just about your writing journey, the writing process. But let's start out maybe with what I think is an easier one. It's your debut novel. Why horror? What compelled you to write a horror novel for your first book?
So I've always been a fan of horror. I started out like most horror writers with
Of
Stephen
course.
King. He was actually, yeah, he was the first. I first watched Pet Cemetery, and it scared me as like a 12-year-old. And then I got into reading his stuff more high school. And I kind of like I've always had a love for the horror genre, movie
Mm.
wise and somewhat books, but I dove more into it lately because I started getting bored from thrillers and mysteries and crimes, which I've read a lot of. Um, I've read a lot of different genres, but I started getting bored of it. And when I started deciding to write, I tried to do a thriller. I could not get
Mm.
it. That will never see the light of day. I finished it, but I I did not like it, so I scrapped that. And then I started going back into the horror genre in terms of novels and started reading a lot of Grady
Yep.
Hendrix, Paul Tremblay, all those great authors, and decided, hey, let's try horror. And it flowed
Okay.
way better than thriller did. So yeah, I started out doing short stories, and this book now that I'm releasing actually was a 2,000 word short story at first. It was called Don't Wake Up at 3 a.m. Now it's just Don't Wake Up because I thought that was a better name. But yeah, it's always intrigued me. I always love the idea of not so much describing the monster that's within the book, but the what people feel
Mm.
like during that, the metaphor towards it, you could say.
So it's there's two things really that I'm super interested in. One is what you mentioned. Stephen King, I think, is the gateway drug for all of us with horror, especially, you
It's
know,
so true.
if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, especially, Stephen King film adaptations, new books were coming out. It felt like every couple months, right? Um, so like subsisted on a diet of Stephen King, Clive Barker, Dean Koontz, and then in the '90s with Alvin Schwartz and the and R.L. Stein. I mean, I'll be honest there too.
Yeah.
And so I get it. It Yeah, for sure. But then there's something else that you mentioned as far as the your almost your writing style. Um, in the excerpt that I read, something that I really, really enjoyed and appreciated was the descriptions that you gave for the world building. And not only that, it's not just like it wasn't just vivid in my head, but there were also your writing felt emotional. I it's hard to describe it. There was sort of a visceral response that I had while I was reading the couple pages that I read, and I'm super interested to know, is that difficult?
It was. So, I
Okay,
mean, like probably most people, I did take creative writing courses and stuff. So I want, and one thing that I learned through that was to not just show, but to, or sorry, not just tell, but to show
sure,
those feelings and those emotions. And while writing, I'll say first draft probably didn't have that.
sure.
But going back and editing, I was like, okay, I need to show more emotion to it. And
Mm,
that's kind of where it came from, where, sorry, I lost my train
that's
of
okay.
thought. Um, right. Yeah. Just writing the character, I guess, putting myself into how she would feel. Like we've all had those nightmares that wake you up screaming or in a cold sweat and stuff like that. But just like that's what I tried to get across on the page, I
Mm,
guess, is to have the reader feel that, you know?
yeah,
It's hard. It could be difficult. But yeah, like I said, the first draft, it was just words on paper.
understood. It's
Yeah.
I something I respect about writers that I find just incredibly difficult to do is to honestly, if I'm gonna like tell on myself here, it's just the concept of flowing through the narrative, right? Where ideas and actions and emotions and description all sort of comes together into something that's like coherent because obviously, it's a gift. It's not just a skill. It's not just something that you cultivate. There's something there that's just pure talent. And so I I'm super interested to read the full novel when it releases next week because I in reading it, there's just this. You left me with enough intrigue as I was going that like I felt connected to the character, which and I'll be honest too, it's generally difficult for me to do that in a first person writing style, but
Okay.
there was something, and it's just so hard to quantify. There was something about the way that you wrote those pages that I read that I was like, yeah, I definitely want to know more. I want to know more about the character's journey. I want to know about more about the horror that they're facing. I'll give you a good example. The scene with the chipmunk on the log. It almost immediately I had this picture in my head, and then there was a scene shift right as I was like picturing this chipmunk walking down the log, and then all of a sudden the wind gust came, and yeah, so talk to me about this part, right? Because I hear so often from authors, the best writing flows from personal experience or something that we're familiar with. Is was that the case for you as well?
In a way,
Okay,
yes. Like I felt like, especially with the character, obviously Lila, I kind of describe her as myself
okay,
almost. I mean, I've had, like I said, we've all had nightmares and I've had those as well, but nothing to the point where, where what she actually went through. But I mean, there's definitely pulling from personal
sure,
experience and pulling from those nightmares. Like there's one scene in the book that not that you didn't read, but her friend or boyfriend um tells her about a nightmare he had, and that was literally taken from a nightmare I had
okay,
once. So yeah, there definitely is some pulling from my own experiences for sure.
okay. I respect it, and I wish I could. I wish I could do it. There's just like this massive chasm between my brain wanting to get things down on paper and then those things getting down on paper being like substantive or even interesting. I don't know. Maybe I'm my own worst critic, but I have a super deep respect
Yeah.
for for folks like you who can take the thoughts that are there and pour them out on the page and make them just beautiful. Like it's just a beautiful thing to put things down like that. And so, super well done. I feel like, um, man, in a maybe later in my life or in another life or maybe in a previous life, I had words that flowed like the ink from a pen.
You maybe you just haven't found your inspiration yet. I don't
Could
know,
be.
like
So
yeah.
so writing process, right? This is your debut novel. What was your writing process like? Was it a just a sort of an outpouring, or was it a slow trickle? Was it something that took a ton of time? What was that like for you?
It was a little bit of an outpouring at
Okay,
first. The first draft probably took me like 3 months to write, and then when I started going back, see, I also work a full-time job, and I'm a single
sure,
mom, so a lot of balancing and all that kind of stuff. So when the ideas came to me, I it was a little chaotic. I'd take notes down on my phone, got my notebook in my bag all the time to take notes whenever something came to
mm,
me. And when I get home and have time to write, it was just type, 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 type. Um, but yeah, it was quick in a way, but also felt like it took a
sure.
while. But I mean, all in all, I started in January and it's being released in October. So process wise, it was pretty quick.
That's pretty great. I mean, so
Yeah.
you started in 2025 and it's being published in 2025.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See, and that's
I gave myself
amazing.
deadlines. Yeah.
So, you know, obviously, one of my favorite books of all time, a book that I read every year, is On Writing by Stephen King. And he talks about his writing process being, locking himself away every morning for X number of hours, like 8 to 10 kind of thing. And he shuts the world out. Obviously, Stephen King is like, he's a career author. So he has maybe the time to
Yeah.
do that. Do you find, did you find that there were certain parts of the day that were easier to write, or was it more a sort of like intuitive thing? Okay, I have this idea. I need to flesh it out. This is when I'm going to do it right now.
It was more I had to set the time
Okay,
aside for when I could do it. Like, that's why I would, like, if I was at work and I thought of something, I just
write
wrote it
it
down in
down.
my notes. And then come nighttime, that's when I, like, locking yourself in the room. Pretty much once my son went to bed, it was me in my room from, let's say, 8:30, 9 o'clock until 11 o'clock at night
Okay,
writing. Um, I would turn my phone on do not disturb. Like it was just that's my time. And yeah, I took breaks in between and maybe I wouldn't hit that 1 to 2,000 word count, but at least there was something on the page.
sure.
Yeah.
Quality wise, first draft in particular, right?
Yeah.
Is it night and day from the first draft to the soon to be published book that you wrote, or are there similarities? Are you rewriting? Is there a ton of editing that goes into that process?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Like the story from when it first started, I get like the first draft, probably more so there's more in depth now than there was before.
Okay.
Like there's more about the characters, her relationship with her friends and her boyfriend and her parents. That was definitely added in the second, third, fourth draft. But actually, after getting it all done, said and done, and got my author copy, I read it myself and went back and reread the short story that I had written a year
Okay.
ago, like over a year ago, and that was just night. That was night and day. Because
Okay.
yeah, it still had the same concept, but there was no like I don't know, I feel like my writing style through this book and writing all those doing all those edits and stuff really shone afterwards and like helped me grow
Okay.
almost. Yeah.
I think that's the part that scares me the most is is the editing part where, you know, I've got this idea because in my head there's a huge part of me that's a perfectionist when it comes to feeling like I want to tell a story. So, like with the Red Tree House, it's a fully scripted
Mhm.
show, from the introduction, first word of the intro to the last word of the conclusion. Everything is scripted word for word, and so there's a huge
Yeah.
like part of me that prioritizes and really deeply cares about storytelling. And so I found that my biggest struggles have been to sit down. I have this idea in my head that I think is a great idea. I can't wait to write about it. I sit down and I write a paragraph, and I'm like, that's terrible. And instead of like maybe forcing myself into the next paragraph or the next scene or just continuing on, I like get stuck there. And I'm like, oh no, I got to clean this up or clean that up. Is that, am I alone in that? Or is that a common thing?
Mm.
Okay.
At least for me, yes. So I know a lot of people, like, even when I learned about like creative writing and stuff and writing novels, that a lot of people were saying, like, just put words on
Mhm.
paper, fix it later in the edit. I couldn't do that.
Right.
A lot of it was like, okay, I've got to find the perfect word for this. I've got to find the perfect, and I'm like, okay, I'm taking too long on this one chapter. Like, I totally get where you're coming from. Bit of a perfectionist myself, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, I can't go back to that. I had to like force myself to just let it go
Yeah.
and go back to it later. Yeah.
I don't remember where I found this. I was reading something in probably an article recently, a couple months back, and the author was talking about their writing process and how for them it's super difficult to really fight through some of that, perfectionism. And she commented that it's sort of
Mhm.
like the difference between a checking and a savings account. Like it's all your money and it's just going in a
Mhm.
different place, right? But it's all there. It's nothing's missing. Everything is yours. It belongs to you. But so many people like, and I resonate with this too, that, I'm going to put money in savings. I'm going to save this. And then to go from the idea of putting money in savings to actually doing it is like, but we like freeze. And so I thought it was like a really
Yeah.
apt metaphor that that's how I feel in the writing process is I got these words down. These words are shit. I need to fix them before like make them less that. Not
Yeah.
realizing
Yeah.
that the whole thing belongs to me. The first draft, second draft, everything in between. And I can always go back and adjust and tweak. So I don't know if that's like, will you just need to shut up and do it, or if it's or what it is, but it's another part of this process that I respect about authors who can take that journey and fight through some of those difficulties. What did you
Mhm.
find, if there was anything, what did you find is the most difficult part of writing a full-length novel?
The most difficult, I had fun with it. I can't
Okay,
lie.
that's good.
There weren't too many struggles. I mean, yeah, there were some points, like at least with this one, I worried I would lose my
Mm,
momentum, right? It's my first one. It happened with the, like I said, when I tried to write a thriller, I
sure.
lost the momentum there, I lost the ideas, and this one I worried it was gonna be the same, but I don't know, something about this story just came out,
Okay.
and it wasn't entirely easy, like, I did have to sit and, like, some days were, like, 200 words on the page, 100 here, whatever, but for the most part, it was great. I'm, working on a new one now.
Okay.
That one's not flowing as freely.
Fair.
So I think it's storyline. I think it's whatever my brain comes up with. If I'm not fully in the story, it might some roadblocks because this one I'm trying to challenge myself with three different point of views, and it's been a little difficult. So pushing forward, but yeah, I just maybe it's just the story being there
Sure.
in my brain and accessible that made it easier.
So,
Yeah.
do you generally plot your storylines out, or do you sort of start with a concept and then sort of uncover it as things happen or as the book unfolds?
I generally do like a basic outline plot, like who's what, when, all
Okay.
that. Um, as I start writing, I will go from chapter to chapter and outline each
Okay.
chapter. Sometimes it gets away from me. Sometimes my characters go rogue. I've got cork boards full of notes. I've got notebooks full of notes. It's a little chaotic, but it works for me.
I respect it. I
So far.
definitely respect it. Okay, I mean that's super helpful. Because there's like multiple schools of thought, right? Of course, well, don't plot out because it becomes stiff and stilted and it's not like great. But then it's like, but what if my brain requires me to have some concept
Mhm.
of what I'm doing? And that's how I feel.
It's nice to have Yeah, it's nice to have, like, what you have planned, but letting yourself
Mm.
go off script almost, right? Like, um, I had one chapter I was doing I wrote out the entire outline, maybe followed 5%
Oh
of what I
wow.
actually, like, planned. Yeah.
Okay.
So, like I said, I just kinda let it go, like, once you start writing it, I don't know, it's just something turns it's like, "Oh, the character wouldn't do that, she'd do this," right?
Yeah. Sort of takes a life of its own.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you find so I don't think in the excerpt that I read that there was those excerpts didn't contain dialogue, but do you find that dialogue is easy or difficult? Because I think I'll tell you what I think after.
I think it can be
Okay.
difficult because you don't want it to sound, like, scripted. Like, I like to read it out loud after I've written
Mm,
it to see if it actually sounds like a human being would say
sure.
that. Um, there are there are times where I've questioned it and I've taken stuff out, but yeah, I think the reading it out loud for yourself makes it
Mm.
easier, and getting other people to read it too gives it more. I don't know. I want to say depth to it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's good. I hate writing dialogue.
Yeah.
It's just because in my head, right, the way things sound in my head generally is not how people talk, you know, comfortably or casually, right? In my head it feels a
Yeah.
little more formal, maybe a little definitely a little stiffer, like, you know, I don't I don't call my wife honey. But I might
Mhm.
write a character saying that to their wife and it's like, but that just feels doesn't feel like normal. Not normal, but just doesn't feel comfortable because I wouldn't say it, right? And so
Yeah.
more often than not, that's where the scribbles end up on the page or the backspace ends up in on the computer because I'm just like, oh, I don't know
Yeah.
how to get around this, how I want to say this, or how I want this character to say this to someone else. So I got to work on it.
Yeah, you almost have to, like, figure out your character and how what they would say because it's not you, like you
Right.
said, you would never say
Mm.
it.
Right.
So you have to kinda like, okay, this character is like a stiff, stern kinda guy. He wouldn't be all happy-go-lucky,
Sure.
but he'd be more like, you know, it's building your characters and figuring out would they actually say something like that? Would they actually
Yeah.
sound like that? Yeah, I think that's a lot of what I did was, again, character outline, but also just kinda going off on their own.
Fair. What so the joy of writing, right? I we always people always sort of talk about the difficulty of it. Ooh, lose my voice for a second. Folks always
Oh,
talk about the
no.
difficulty of writing and the how tough it is. Let's talk about the joys of it. What did you love about writing
Yeah.
this book?
I just loved being able to do it.
Okay.
Like I said, it's been something I wanted to do for so long and finally found that motivation, I guess. Like you said,
Sure.
it doesn't matter how old you are, but the creativity comes when it comes, right? Um, I loved being able to sit down and write it
Sure.
and get it out of my brain.
Yeah. Is it a thing where cuz I think for me it's always like this nagging thing. Like I'll put it to the side like, "Oh, I'll get to it at some other point. Like things are just hectic right now. There's not enough time to get this done." And it sort of lingers, but then it nags after a little bit, right? Like it just sort of gnaws at you.
Mhm.
Did you have the similar feeling or what was it like to finally just get it out there? Was it relief? Was it like just feeling ecstatic? Was it pride? What was it like for you?
All of those things really.
Okay.
Once once I sent my final editing drafts to my editor, I had this weird limbo where it was like, "Oh, it's done for now until he
Sure.
gets back to me." But then
Mm.
it was like, "Oh, but now an editor's reading it." what's it gonna turn into now? Like, but he was great. He didn't actually change too much of the
Okay.
story, and then going into production, it was just like you said, pride, joy, this is coming to life, getting the first copy, seeing the cover, it's all been great. But now going into like, oh, it's coming out in a
Mm.
week. Now the scary part starts because it's been nothing but marketing
Uh-huh.
for the past month and a half, even, or, yeah. So now it's the scary, daunting part. But yeah, a lot of different emotions.
Sure. And it's almost like
Yeah.
you're wearing multiple hats, right? It's one thing to be an author and to write it. It's another thing to be a marketing strategist and and promote it and get your name out
Yeah.
there. What is that like?
That's the
What is
hard
that like for
part.
you?
Uh to be honest, I'm learning as I
Yep,
go.
that's fair.
It's yeah, I started before I even wrote the book, I was still writing the short stories. I started like a Instagram
Okay.
account where I highlighted all the horror books I was reading and talking about the short stories I was writing, and then it just kind of formed into
Mm,
a Bookstagram. And then I gained a lot of followers off that, and that was great. So then I'm like, okay, I have like a base of audience where I can market to. And then I decided to go on TikTok and started that. So social media has been a huge part of it. Doesn't hurt that I had a marketing strategist kind of give me a strategy to go with. Doing press releases
sure.
now, reaching out to all kinds of different media outlets and stuff like that. That part's hard because, like I said before, I'm not great at talking in front of stuff. Like I can write a book, that's fine, and hide behind that book. But having to talk about myself and like all that kind of stuff, it's difficult. So that part of marketing is daunting, but it's been exciting at the same
Sure.
time. And just trying to go with the flow and make have fun with it.
Yeah, that's fair. I find social media to be like the Bermuda Triangle. I don't know how to figure it out. I
Mm,
don't know how it works. I don't know. And
so
all the little things that they tell you,
yeah,
just sometimes it works and like things take off, and then sometimes it's like crickets. Um,
yeah.
so you're a week out or a little over a week out. What
Mhm.
what happens in the interim from now till then? Is it just a lot of marketing? What is it like? I mean, the lead up to the book release.
It's a lot of marketing. Every day I'm posting every day.
Okay,
I've got a book signing on launch day, so I have to start pushing that once that gets all lined
that's
up,
awesome.
and still reaching out to people. Yeah, it's just full blown marketing mode while doing everything else. So it's been stressful, but but fun. I try to take it all with a grain of
For sure.
salt and just be excited for it because, like I said, beginning of the year, I set out one goal. I'm gonna write my first book. By the end of the year, it'll be released, and I did, and I'm proud of that.
I mean, it's amazing. Just the timing, the timeline of it is amazing. I mean, yeah, I'm like my wheels are spinning, and I don't know if they're spinning in mud or if they're spinning on the ground and going in a direction or what, but there's definitely some churning going on up here. Um,
Yeah.
so I talk to a lot of folks, and especially folks who are interested in writing a book. I firmly am entrenched in that. I want to write. I can't wait to write. I haven't written. I wrote a short story last year that I guess was pretty well received. It was fine, and then I sat down. And I was like, "Damn, that was 4,200 words, and that was hard. That was really really difficult, and it took way longer than I anticipated." But for someone like me, or for someone who has an aspiration to be a writer, right, to publish something, whether it's traditional publishing, self publishing, hybrid publishing, is there a nugget of advice, a bunch of advice you would give to them as they sort of get themselves started?
Best advice I can give, because I mean, it's kind of what I did, is just start. Like, just start writing, put those thoughts on paper. And I know you like some people, they, want to be the perfectionist
Mm,
and get it all perfect and right. It just, you kind of have to get out of your own head.
sure.
Um, that's the best way I would say. Like, you just gotta write. It's gonna be it's hard. It takes a lot of your time, but I don't know. It's worth it in the end to hold that book in your hands, a physical copy, and your name on it and
Yeah.
everything. It's
Uh,
great. But yeah, and putting yourself out there. Obviously, you put yourself out there every day,
yeah.
and but having that community, building a community of like-minded people, because I mean, as a writer, it can get a little lonely when it's just you and
Mm,
your story. Right? So having like I have to say being part of the independent author community, they've really boosted my confidence in this as well.
sure.
Certain authors out there who are mutuals and stuff just like made me feel like I could do this. So having that community really helps as
Mm.
well.
I feel like that's a super underrated aspect of sort of creating content, right? In a maybe in a general sense.
Mhm.
Because I know when I first started, and I have some really good conversations with folks who say, oh, I want to start a podcast, or even I want to write. And something that I tell them is, look, there's got to be some measure of community building, right? Folks will
Yeah.
say, oh, I need a platform, and I sort of kind of reframe it for them just a little bit to say, hey, platforms tend to put you in a place that's different from other people, and there are times where that's right and
Mhm.
appropriate. But community building sort of extends an invitation to someone, it welcomes them in, and you guys are standing side by side. And it's like, well, how do you do that, right? How do you build community from, let's say, a new someone who's new to content creation or new to writing? how what did it look like for you to build a community of encouraging folks that could then lift you up, motivate you, and really help compel you forward? What did that look like?
I mean, I guess like they tell you on social media, you got to follow
Mm,
people so they follow you back, all that kind of stuff. And engaging in their
sure.
content was the main thing. Like I seen an author that had a similar style to me or had a book that intrigued me, and I would just comment on their things and
Mm,
like each post, repost, add to stories, all that kind of stuff. And then eventually we had a dialogue going, and then it built on that. Like TikTok is just starting to do that as well, but it
sure.
was more Instagram. um but yeah, it's just actually engaging with the people out there, like to find your niche, so to speak, and then finding the right people, and then start
Mm,
engaging.
that's good. And that's super helpful. Man, I feel like I have so many questions just sort of bubbling and boiling in my brain right now. Just,
Let them free.
it's just a thing where when you're someone like me who doesn't have a breadth of experience in the same thing that the person I'm talking to is, there's just like this general intrigue, like, oh, I don't know, like, for example, once you wrote your book, you got it back from editing, right? And you are now like querying it to, right? What was that like? What is it like to to have this nearly completed or completed thing in your hands, and then be like, I want to send this into the world around me? What are the emotions attached to that?
So I kind of already had a plan of what I was going to do. I didn't do any of the querying
Okay.
or all that kind of traditional publishing, because I wanted to get it out there quicker,
Okay.
and I'm new to this. It's a new experience, and I was worried that I would get rejected,
Sure.
to be honest, or the work wouldn't, be picked up. So I took it upon myself to do, I guess, a hybrid
Okay.
publishing, because like I said, I am not tech savvy. I don't know how to do formatting. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. I just know how to put words on
Sure.
paper. So I reached out to a company that helped me do the formatting, cover design, marketing, helped with the marketing strategy, all
Okay.
that kind of stuff. Um, Once I got stuff back from the editor, I reached out to them a second time because, like, since April, I was in correspondence with them. Um, it was a better way to say this. the emotions behind it were like just to motivate myself,
Sure.
right? Keep going, like no matter, because these people aren't going to turn you down. You have nothing to lose. They're here to help
Sure.
you, right? That kind of helped in that way. Um, so yeah, it's just an overall great process. Everybody was like quick to help, easy answers, like all that kind of stuff. So it's just been great. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing for myself and for others who are listening is, it's a cliche, right? How do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. You know, we get that. I get that. But there
Yeah.
really is there really is some truth to that in this process of, hey, if you want to write, you got to sit down and you got to do it, right? You got to go one word at a time, one
Mhm.
sentence at a time, paragraph, page, chapter, right? So you've got the whole thing done.
Yeah.
And I feel like talking to you, there's a certain taking away the fear part of it. I think that's there, right? There is always that like fear of rejection or fear of failure, especially
Mhm.
when you're putting yourself out there in I mean, in a personal way, right? This is like this is your baby, this is your creation, this is something that you've put time, energy, money, resources, blood, sweat, tears into. And so I feel like and I appreciate the fact that there's some defanging or declawing of the beast that is writing.
Yeah.
And so, and I'll say again, just again, the excerpt that I read, it just seems so natural to read. Your writing style just flows.
I
It
appreciate
just
that.
feels nice to read. So I'm super
Yeah.
excited to get my hands on a copy next week when it releases. And where can our listeners find you on the socials? Where can they follow you? Where can they link up with you? Where can they find you?
So they can find me. My handles on everything is at
Okay.
horror.writer.l. So TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Facebook are the main ones I use. Um, Facebook not so much, but yeah, like Instagram, TikTok, come follow, follow along the journey.
Please do. Follow her, guys, on the socials. And when the book releases in 8 days, today's the 22nd, we're recording, released on the 30th, be sure to pick up a copy.
Definitely Amazon, everyone's favorite, of course.
Uh-huh.
Um, Depending on, I'm in Canada, but Canada is indigo.com,
Okay.
Barnes and Noble, wherever you get your ebooks, Kindle Unlimited, lots of different options. So
Okay. Guys, go out
yeah.
and get it. Give it a read. Leave the reviews because those are important also.
Please. Yes.
You know, definitely leave the reviews. And be sure to follow her. With the second book that she's working on, obviously, this is more than just a one-time endeavor. So that's exciting. I'm really, really interested to see what the next months and even year holds for you. You got a whole book written and published in a year's time, less than a year. That's amazing. So looks good for the
Yeah.
future.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed for the next
Yeah,
one.
for sure. Fingers crossed. Prayers up,
Yeah.
good thoughts, and all
Yeah.
the things. Well, Elle, it's been great talking with you, chatting with you. Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to next week.
Yes, me too.
Well,
Very excited.
and to
Thank
those that
you.
oh, you're welcome. And to those that are listening, obviously, I don't take it for granted that you're spending your time with us. It's always a great thing. As usual, you can find One Good Scare wherever you stream podcasts, on the socials. Social media is tough. It's just sometimes it's really fun, and sometimes I'm like, oh, this is the worst. But you can find me on Instagram at One Scare Pod, and then on TikTok at One Good Scare Pod. So slightly different. Folks had some usernames that were the same, and I had to make do with what I had. So be sure to follow, like, subscribe, all the things. And I will catch you next week on One Good Scare. Take care.